Hey everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Scream 6. But before we get started, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you never miss another review. Now let's get into it. I've talked a little bit about my relationship with the Scream franchise before in my worst of 2022 video. I still do not understand the praise behind the new Scream. Yeah, I love the first two, barely tolerate that Disney Channel movie that's the third one.
After a Disney Channel like Scream from the Gals.
I like the fourth one for what it is, even though it's a little messy towards the end. And I absolutely f***ing hate the fifth one and don't understand all the praise behind it. It's terribly written new characters, and it's awful motivation for the killers. Even if the kills were pretty good. So, with that in mind, I wasn't that excited for this sequel. I kind of had the same feeling I had when I went and saw The Rise of Skywalker. So, how was it? Let's find out. Scream 6 picks up about a year after the last one and the requel Stab Killings, with Jenna Ortega's Tara Carpenter making a move and going to college at NYU. She's there with the other survivors, the niece and nephew of Randy, Mason Gooding's Chad, and Jasmine Savoy Brown's Mindy. Tara's sister Sam, played by Melissa Barrera, is holding on just a little too tight and followed her to New York, determined to keep an eye on her and protect them both from another attack. There's also the returning legacy characters of Courtney Cox's Gale Weathers, and the surprise and completely unnecessary and random return of Hayden Panettiere's Kirby from Scream 4.
We share a certain history.
Oh, but that's not all in this bloated cast. There are newcomers, including Chad's new roommate Ethan, played by Avatar 2's Jack Champion, who looks about 6 years older than he did in that movie that came out last year, if that shows you just how long it took to make that movie. Dermot Mulroney's Detective Bailey, his daughter Quinn, played by Liana Liberato, Mindy's girlfriend Anika, played by Devin Nakata, another student Jason, played by Tony Revolori, film professor Laura, played by Samara Weaving, and a few others that I'm not even going to mention because this cast list is long as fuck. So yes, amongst this huge cast in New York City, Ghostface rises and starts killing again.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
But this Ghostface is a little more brutal and unhinged than before. As I mentioned, I did not like the last Scream movie, and I was pretty nervous about this one. But I will definitely say that the opening scene plunged into me like Ghostface knife and did not let go. It immediately got me hooked. This is probably my favorite opening scene to a Scream movie since the original.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Just in a little 10-minute sequence, it has so many twists, turns, and oh shit moments, and it sets a hell of a tone for the movie to follow. From there, we slow down a bit. Actually, let me mention this real quick. The last Scream was a requel, right? Mindy even comments on it.
Oh my god, he's making a requel. A what?
For those of you that aren't in the know about what a requel is, it's when you take the original horror movie for a long-running series. It doesn't have to be a horror movie, but it happens a lot with horror, and you ignore all of the other sequels or cut it off at a certain point and ignore certain sequels or whatever, and basically do a sequel to that original movie to start your own new canon. Now, they didn't really cut any sequels out with Scream, but there was a lot of stuff that kind of made a diagonal on the requel bingo card, if you know what I mean. It treads a lot of plot points of the original while bringing back legacy characters and upping the ante in terms of the death and gore. Now, with this one, we're getting a sequel to the requel. And with that comes a lot of influence and straight up borrowed plot points from Scream 2, down to it even taking place in college. And yes, if you notice this early on, before Mindy has her fourth wall breaking talk about the rules in the middle of the movie that's been a staple since the original Scream movie,
Everybody's a suspect!
you might be able to solve this whodunit pretty early on. I just want to address that now and move on. Because though that does detract from the movie a little bit if you're an eagle-eyed viewer, the team does well enough and introduces enough fresh elements to spice it up and make it very enjoyable, especially after that slog that was the last one. So after the incredible opening scene, I was already really impressed and hooked into it, way more than I was with Scream 5. So once we get reintroduced from the 4 survivors from the last movie and we see the way their characterization is going now, I was actually really interested in enjoying it. By having the plot of this movie take place so soon after the last one, the writers are really able to dive into the trauma and response to that trauma that all of these characters are having. Well, not totally. We really only get a line or two about it from Chad and Mindy, but in terms of Tara and Sam, these characters are written leagues better than they were last go around, and I'm very happy to be able to say that. Don't get me wrong, even though I didn't like the last movie, it was more so because of the story and the approach to what they did with some of the characters, not the actors and the performances and the talent behind the movie. Here, they're still great, but the script is so much stronger and more developed to the point where I was really invested in these two characters as the leads. As for the rest of the cast that I mentioned earlier, all of them do great jobs as well, outside of some spoilerish territory that I'll get into later, though the screen time for anyone outside of the newly dubbed Core 4, the 4 survivors from the last film, is very limited. Though, to be fair, this cast is huge, and we have to keep the whodunit mystery going, because if we see too mumuch of certain characters, then we'll just rule them out as suspects.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Speaking of the rest of the cast, I'll bring back up the legacy characters because even though I kind of enjoyed seeing them, they were definitely shoehorned in.
Why are you here?
Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers is great in that bitchy role, as always.
It never works out for the dipshit in the mask.
But Hayden Panettiere's Kirby had literally no reason to come back, and honestly, she was pretty rusty in the role. No disrespect to her though, and condolences and love to her family because I know that she has lost her brother tragically. Rest in peace. So outside of the solid cast and good script, I also want to shout out this movie's Ghostface. Whenever Ghostface does appear, the scenes can be tense and a little scary, though the main point is the brutality. Though I don't understand people saying this is the most inventive and brutal he's ever been. I mean, he only really uses a knife for most of the kills outside of that one with the shotgun. These killings are still slow, torturous, and surprisingly gory considering it's just a knife for most of them.
Let me see what you have.
No!
I was on the edge of my seat during nearly all the Ghostface scenes, and the way things were paced with these scenes in between the slower character moments with the drama was actually really well done, and it kept me engaged throughout the entire movie. New York is also used to great effect here as well, with the settings like NYU, a dark grimy alley, the subway, the apartment buildings that are basically right on top of each other, the shitty little convenience stores, the fire escapes. All of it is used to turn the city into Ghostface playground, and I really dug it.
And I dig it.
I was even digging the humor too, one of my least favorite parts about the last one. Since this centers on just the Core 4, it's not as mean-spirited this time, and the jokes and one-liners that group gave each other actually felt genuine and made them feel much more like friends this time around. And when we get to the scene breaking down the rules of this movie, the writing was strong, the references and in-jokes worked, and the way that Mindy explained how this kind of turned into a franchise now was actually really clever and funny. There are a few jokes that don't land, more than I would have preferred, mostly because they come during some very violent and brutal scenes and feel very tonally awkward and don't really gel with the rest of that part. But for the most part, this movie delivers on the laughs just like it delivers on the suspense and violence and mystery. That being said, it's definitely not perfect, and I do have a few complaints.
You gotta be f***ing kidding.
The first is a complaint I've had with nearly every movie of the franchise, and that's the reveal of Ghostface's true identity. The original with Stu and Billy, between Skeet Ulrich kind of being a quiet psychopath and Matthew Lillard's deranged, almost childlike acting, right down to the craziness of that final fight, is absolutely iconic.
Surprise, Sydney. What's the matter, Sydney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Though I think that the reveal scenes from the rest of the series haven't really lived up to that, and they range between convoluted...
Your boyfriend didn't like seeing his daddy in my film too much. All the kid needed was a few pointers.
What?
to downright cringe-inducing.
They just laugh at us. And why? Because we love something?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This one is definitely the best reveal since the original, in my opinion, though the acting in this scene is so over the top and hammy that it almost took me out of the movie. But the movie makes up for it by having the violent climax that follows be total madness with a brutal edge that I actually really appreciated, not to mention a truly cathartic ending.
Oh, that's nice.
However, that actually brings me to my next complaint, one that extends throughout this entire series. Are stab wounds fatal or not? The rules of what actually kills someone or not in this series are so fucking loose that it's almost infuriating. There was a couple parts in this movie where it took everything for me not to yell at the screen, "Didn't you just get stabbed in the gut?" I would be able to let this go if this film in particular didn't make such a point of showing how brutal Ghostface is this time, with some nasty, gory aftermath. But then, that person that just dealt with that, and potentially maybe even has their insides hanging out, is up, standing, and running a second later. No, you should be doubled over holding in your intestines. So yeah, that was actually kind of distracting. I don't know if that's nitpicky or not, it probably is. It definitely doesn't bother general moviegoers or something, because the crowd that I saw this with, my best friend and I went to see it, and the crowd that we saw it with was really into it and reacting to so many things. But for someone like me that has seen so many freaking horror movies and can't stand that, it was pretty annoying and bothered me. And my final complaint is one that I briefly touched on earlier, and that's the lack of any strong character development for anybody outside of Tara and Sam. Making up the rest of the core four, Chad and Mindy do have plenty of screen time, and they play off the rest of the cast pretty well, but they never hit the emotional and dramatic highs of Tara and Sam, and they definitely feel like side characters. As for the rest of them, they basically have nothing in terms of development, though the actors are strong enough so you can look past it a little bit.
I liked it.
So yeah, despite another cringe killer reveal scene,
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
non-existent writing for a lot of the supporting characters, and a severe misunderstanding of the toll that a stab wound takes on your body and your internal organs,
That's not how it works.
Scream 6 is still a funny, gory, well-written, acted, and shot slasher with plenty of twists and turns and just enough laughs and drama to keep audiences excited and drawn in until the very end. I can't believe it, but I'm actually excited for Scream 7.
No shit.
And that's my review of Scream 6. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, hit that subscribe button and bell icon, and leave a comment below. You can also find the links to my socials in the description below, and you can click right here to check out my review of Creed 3, or just go over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for my review of Shazam! Fury of the Gods.